What's up, everybody, and welcome back into the Play the Fight Song College Football Show. Another action-packed week of college footballs in the books, and we are here to recap everything that happened in Week 4. There are some upsets, there are some comebacks, there was a Hail Mary, so it pretty much had everything you could have asked from it. Let's dive into it, but first, let's talk to Jake. Jake, how we doing this morning? Two-man crew, Batman and Robin style. The other boys taking the day off. They just don't want to talk ball with us. You're on mute. You're on mute. It's all right. A little fresh. Now you're off. Now you're off. Here we go.
Yep, we're rolling Sunday morning here. I was saying little MJ Pippin action. We're making it work. If you're watching us live here on YouTube, you can tell that I'm not in my normal spot.
Kids in the closet.
That's the thing about us. We strap it up, ready to play wherever we're going. We're ready to talk ball. We're ready to do it. I guess this is going to be a two-man crew on our recaps from now on. I'm not really sure what we got going on yet.
I know. I figured I think JP's at a wedding last night, but I figured maybe he brought his stuff just in case, Iowa wins Floyd. He wanted to come on here and talk, but no, wins, losses, kid doesn't show up. I don't know
Kaylin
what's going
asked
on.
me, I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to record a podcast this morning. She's like, you brought your stuff with you? I was like, I always bring my stuff ready to go. I'm available. I'm playing.
Whenever. Yeah, I'm active. I'm not on the IR. What's the deal here? Trip doesn't stop us. But all right, that is the intros. Let's talk about No Rivals, our great partners, shopnorivals.com. Unique designs, premium hats. Check them out today at shopnorivals.com. And when you pick a hat that you love, throw it in your cart and check out. Use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping. They're adding a ton of new teams. Wake Forest just made the collection. There's some more coming down the line. And if your team's not on there, hit the teams button at the top, go all the way down to the bottom, request your team, throw them in there so they know who they should add. All of a sudden, a few months later, hopefully a few weeks later, your team will show up and you can have some sweet gear with free shipping on us with code PTFS. Shout out No Rivals. All right, let's go into Week 4 recap. Let's start it off on Friday. Let's talk about it. Unfortunately, this is what happens, but Illinois beats Nebraska to start off the 400th sellout era in Nebraska's era. I was in the stadium for the game throughout the entire thing. Luke Altmaier was really good, 21 for 27, 215, and 4 scores. I'll let you go first, Jake. What were your thoughts watching this matchup Friday night?
Yeah, as an outsider's perspective, again, like I'm not always dived into Big Ten play, but I thought it was I know not the outcome you want in Parks, but really good game. I was really impressed. That was a fun Friday night game, and I think even me and Jordan were like texting, separately. We like to keep your Nebraska stuff. We don't want to bother you too much during the game,
nice.
And I think
that's quality friendship.
We both agreed. We're like, I think we took positives away from both teams after that game. Honestly, I thought Illinois proved to be a pretty good Big Ten team that's going to be fighting for that 5 or 6 best team in this conference. I thought Altmaier was awesome. On the other side with Nebraska, it felt like it was about what you saw out of an 18-year-old freshman. I thought that Illinois really brought the pressure in the third and fourth quarter, and I think that did rattle Raiola a little bit. Obviously, I think he's going to get better as the season gets along. It's what you expect in being his first one-score game, huge Friday night game. Obviously, the record sellout, so a lot of factors play into that. But I thought Illinois took advantage of what they needed to. It was hilarious because obviously we know Nebraska's history of one-score games in the last how many years, and Raiola goes out there, fumbles it twice. They recover them both. And I'm like, oh my God, they're actually going to get the break this time. They punt it. Altmaier fumbles. And then Nebraska gets the ball. And like I tweeted out the other night, Parks, you nailed it. Unfortunately, he kind of left it in the hands of the kicking. And apparently that's a lacking spot for Nebraska right now.
Yeah, Tristan Albano, starting kicker, was ruled out before game time. So backup kicker came in, John Hull, kind of put him in a tough spot with a lot of pressure on him. Hooked a 39-yard field goal.
Yeah,
that would have put us up 3 with 2 minutes to go. Unfortunately, that's just the way the cookie crumbles. If you're a Nebraska fan, I think it's a thing we've seen often. And probably too much. I have not watched Nebraska win a game in overtime, so when that was happening, I didn't feel great about it. I haven't watched them do that since I was 13 years old. 25 now, folks.
Somebody tweeted some alarming stats I saw about Nebraska in overtime. I don't want to butcher the stats, but
it was like 0 wins, 8 games, negative 12 yards. Oh, yeah.
Yes. Oh, my God. I did not know that.
We go to overtime, we get beat. We get beat to sleep in overtime. So we don't really love the taking the overtime route of taking a knee. Obviously, in that situation where you get pinned at the 6, you do. But God, no, we haven't been good in overtime. And you can see the first play of overtime, we give up like a
Yes.
23-yard run, and it was
Yep.
just like, all right, they're sleepwalking down the field. Simply enough, I just thought we got out schemed. I'll full recap it in our preview for Purdue next week. But on the defensive side of the ball, we got out schemed. Zone bubble coverage got picked apart by Altmaier throughout the middle. We didn't contain as well as Illinois did. I thought Illinois' DBs were really good on the outside.
Yeah, that Scott dude, he's really good. He's really good.
Yeah, we didn't. I didn't mention him in my preview. I mentioned Matthew Bailey, who was non-existent, but Scott stepped up. He was really good on the outside, both in coverage. I do want to. I know a lot of people are going to bring up the penalties of the game. I thought they were shitty calls both ways.
Yeah,
but the penalties were 10-3. Nebraska had 10 penalties at home, and Illinois had 3 on the road, and they had 1 in the second half, and it was a false start in the third quarter. So I mean, when we throw the ball 35 times and there's not a single defensive pass interference, probably something was missed eventually.
Surprising in college football too.
Yeah,
That's
literally
been the theme of officiating is pass interference, defensive pass interference this year. Anyways.
Yeah. And I could argue on both sides too that they missed a couple of OPIs. They're just not calling offensive pass interference unless it's like a pick play set up this year, I feel like. But it wasn't. I've seen both. I've seen people with all the alarms going off. Holy shit. I've seen a couple of rule checkouts. That's just social media warriors. And then I've seen the other side, which I'm kind of on, where it's like, nah, this game didn't make me panic. Like Illinois is legitimately good. They didn't look like, it wasn't Purdue rolling in and handling you, or they didn't handle us. Like we should have sealed it. We went up 24-17. That's when you got to get a stop. It's as simple as that. We just couldn't get the stop.
I think no, like you said, I think Illinois is a good team. I would be concerned if maybe we're down the road, and I don't have Nebraska's schedule in front of me, but maybe in a one-score game, they can't capitalize on said Purdue. Like they choke that game to like Purdue. I think that would change my mind and be like, I don't know if Nebraska's ready for this. At least in week 4, I took it away that I think Illinois is just a good team, and I guess we're going to find out next week because I think they go to not College Station. Penn State. I can't think of they can't think of the name right now.
They do, and I've heard rumblings that's the whiteout. So that should be where you learn a lot about Illinois. I also, Nebraska's schedule, I'll tell you, we play at Purdue next week. Then we finally get a bye.
There you go.
Then, yeah. So we'll see West Lafayette last week. I mean, we can talk about Purdue briefly, but we'll break them down in my full fan perspective. They looked like ass last night. All right. That is Nebraska and Illinois. I'll leave it there because I could go on all day, especially being in that atmosphere and then witnessing another overtime loss. But that is the Friday night game. Let's move on to Saturday. Let's move to one that we didn't preview, but obviously is definitely worth mentioning. Let's talk Missouri and Vanderbilt. Man, Vanderbilt came to play. I don't know if I'm an SEC team, any team in the country. I don't know if I would like to see Vanderbilt on the schedule. Yep. I don't know. Let me lead it off with the question I always ask in our recaps here. Did you take away more from Missouri or give more to Vanderbilt?
I would say I didn't actually watch this game to be honest with you. It wasn't. I think it was on SEC Network. I was watching all the primetime games in that 2:30 slate.
Yeah.
But at least from what I can take away just by box scores and the final score, number one, I was never super high on Missouri in the first place. Now, do I think they should be beating Vanderbilt by double digits? Probably.
Yes.
But on the other side, Clark Lee's team, I know they lost to Georgia State last week, but they've been in every single football game that they've played so far this year. They beat Virginia Tech at home. I can't remember who they beat the week after, but this is I don't want to say good football team, but like I said, you have Diego Pavia, which if he's going to be your quarterback, you're going to scheme up enough stuff to where it's like you're going to scare some teams on the road. You're going to scare some of these SEC teams. It might get ugly in some spots, but as far as the early season, like Vanderbilt's not going to be probably in most cases a 28-point underdog against most of your teams. And I have their schedule pulled up. I mean, they have Alabama at home in 2, I think that's 2 weeks if I counted right. They have Kentucky on the road. It's a spot they could maybe win. Ball State at home, Texas at home. They go to Auburn, South Carolina at home. They get Tennessee at home. And they go to LSU. Like, I'm not saying they're gonna win any of those games, but like maybe Kentucky, obviously Ball State. But at least you do get Texas, Bama, and Tennessee at home. Will they win any of those games? Probably not, but it's got to help a little bit, right?
I would think so. I mean, they would this Missouri environment was tough. I did get a chance to watch this one, especially towards the end when it was 20-20. But in overtime, I mean, Vanderbilt missed God, what was it, a 38-yarder
Yeah,
or whatever,
31-yard field goal.
31-yard field goal to send it to triple overtime. I mean, they were battling. Diego Pavia was really good. I mean, he made a throw on Vanderbilt's first drive where he stepped up in the pocket and like on the run threw a 60-yard dart just in stride to open the scoring. Like they have dangerous weapons. And I don't want to say Missouri looked bad because they put up 30 points, but like 23 for 37 is not the clip you want to see your star quarterback, 5 years into his career or whatever, throwing against Vanderbilt. How is that going to acclimate now to Alabama's secondary or Georgia's secondary or anybody in the SEC that you want to be a contender in? I just wouldn't feel good about it as a Missouri fan, but they survived. They escaped with the win. Hopefully it was one of those slip-up spots. But with the schedule that they have, these are the games that you're supposed to be blowing everybody out of the water, letting people buy into you, building confidence, and they're just not doing that. I mean, they're playing close games at Boston College and now Vanderbilt.
I thought if Missouri wanted to be a legit contender this year, I think Brady Cook needed to make that next step. I just didn't think that was possible. I don't think he's an NFL guy. I mean, he's good enough. He's a good college quarterback, and he's been what this team has needed the last 2 years in this turnaround for Coach Drinkwitz. But I just don't know if like you get into a barn burner. Maybe they do even run the table. I mean, they still have Alabama on their schedule, I believe, and they still have Oklahoma. So those are 2 games. Like, can Brady Cook really step up and win football games? That's when it's going to matter. Not against, you can go 23 for 37 and still beat Vanderbilt at home.
Yeah, I did have a question pop in last night on our Twitter threads. If you're going to comment on our post throughout the day, because we send 1,000 on Saturday of clips and stuff throughout the games, somebody asked, is this the game that we can now address the best SEC wide receiver being Trey Harris and not Luther Burden?
I mean, Ole Miss hasn't played anybody yet. That's
Fair.
the problem. And I think it helps. Well, Missouri's got. I was just going to say, I think it helps that Ole Miss has more options, so Trey Harris can get open more. But then again, I think the Cooper kid's really good for Missouri. I think Theo Weiss is really good. So I guess I can't give that excuse to Luther Burden either. They both have loaded wide receivers. No, I think Burden's still better. I think after the catch, he's just so damn shifty, man, and he's tough to tackle. I think Trey Harris is bigger and he can get out in space, but Luther Burden's just a playmaker once it's in his hands.
I think regardless of the weapons Missouri has, Burden's still a focus. Like, that's the guy that's going to get double 90% of your schematic plans for the week. And so he still gets 2 scores like yesterday. He still has 2 touchdowns. And I feel like it's hard to maybe put him on the back burner now, especially since they're still winning. May not be the way you want to. And he's still going off. Both of those touchdown passes yesterday from Cook were to Burden. So he's obviously still standing out within that wide receiver room. All right, let's go to the Big 12. This is one that I want to hear your thoughts because I had Oklahoma State winning this one outright. They don't do so. They make it close towards the end. But 22-19, Utah takes it in Boone Pickens with a backup quarterback. Cam Rising does not play. Bernard was really good for Utah. 25 carries, 182 yards. They really focused on the ground game, and Wilson was pretty good on the ground too in Utah's quarterback room. What were your thoughts on this matchup being the Big 12 guy?
This one felt good to get right. I know I think in my prediction segment for my Big 12 show, I think I went 3-4. Thanks Baylor and thanks Kansas State for just getting absolutely obliterated on the road. But this one, I think this one, for as much confidence as I spoke in that podcast, this one feels like I won 2 or 3 games. So this one felt like good to be on the right side of. I just said it, like Ollie Gordon has been absent. The Alan Bowman situation is just crazy. I don't know. I was watching it in a bar, so obviously there's no volume or nothing. I didn't really know what was going on. I was trying to scroll through Twitter. Bowman got benched, correct? He didn't get a hand or an injury checked out and then sent back in the game.
I did not see an injury that would have put him out of the game.
Because he finishes the game with 2 picks. The picks were not great. Gordon ends up rushing for another 42 yards, man. This is what I'm saying. He's not even running a top 3. I said hot take going into the season.
Just wait till October, Jake. Just wait till October. He's going to have his 6th straight 128-yard games or something.
He could have, but Parks, look at our graphic there. Who rushed for 182 yards on 25 carries? Michael Bernard is an absolute stud. And right now, he's a top 3 running back in this league, probably with RJ Harvey. Taj Brooks is coming into his own finally again. And yeah, if you can't get 0 going, it's going to be tough because you can afford for Alan Bowman to throw 40 passes against Tulsa. You can't expect Alan Bowman to throw 33 times against Utah and win the football game. Utah's defense is too good. Kyle Whittingham has seen too much in his career to not be surprised at what Alan Bowman throws at him. I'm sorry. I don't want to throw the guy under the bus, but he's been here for 7 years. We kind of know what he is already. Awesome win for Utah. As an Iowa State fan, you think you probably wanted Oklahoma State to win this one because once Cam Rising does come back, and I have no question that he will eventually because he looked almost ready to go yesterday, this team is going to find its groove. And it legitimately, this team could win a college football playoff game. I'll say it here. I think they are that good. I think the defense is that good. If Michael Bernard continues to be as good as he is, the receivers haven't even tapped into the potential that what Utah's receivers could be. And I think Cam Rising coming back will eventually help that room get better. So really, really good win for Utah. Oklahoma State now plays K-State next week. 2 wounded dogs just trying to stay alive. We'll see how that one pans out. But yeah, I felt good to be on Utah's side, even though I said if Cam Rising plays, I'm taking Utah.
Now, Utah still has a couple of tough tests on their schedule throughout the rest of the year, but you have to feel better going into a road environment, backup quarterback. Like, I don't know if Bryson Barnes, I believe that's who was their backup last year, right? He's somewhere else this year. I don't know if you feel that good or they even win this game. Like, Wilson was legitimately serviceable, like fine.
Well,
he's a freshman.
He's a freshman. He's a 4-star freshman. So he's got a lot more talent than Barnes does. It's just a matter of kind of like the young situation. How can he handle it being, what is he? He's probably 18 years old or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, a good start here on the road in a somewhat tough environment within the conference, but you got to feel great about Utah's chances winning this one, where it doesn't really matter if it's backup or starter. When last year it felt like if Cam Rising wasn't on the field, this team had nothing. So unfortunately, Utah proved me wrong. The dog loses, but I think Oklahoma State got up there before the game. It was like, what, 3.5, 4?
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved to know what the line was when the word was officially out that Rising wasn't playing. I mean, probably did get above a field goal.
Yeah, that's right. I thought it was 3.5 I saw right before the kick, but still, this is just a tough loss, Gundy. Like, this is the one that you got to get. If you want to finish off I feel like the numerous 10-win seasons you haven't been able to, this is the one you got to get at home against a team that's picked to win your conference first in the year. I mean, you got to, God,
I think just the frustration with Oklahoma State right now is they know what they get out of Alan Bowman, but I think it's like, what is this offensive line? They talked all offseason how this offensive line's, they're all 30 years old across the board. They're all 6-year seniors. They were performing well last year, and now they can't seem to block anybody. Like, it's not just Utah. Like, again, I said this last week. He rushed for 40 yards on Tulsa. So it's a lingering issue that somehow needs to get corrected quickly.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what to expect from Oklahoma State the rest of the year. It feels like this is one that could turn your season really south. Now, I don't think Gundy and that experience will let it, but they'll have to battle back from within now, losing a game at home like this. But all right, that is Utah and Oklahoma State. Jake will break that one down more, I'm sure, on somewhere in the middle next week in his recap part of that show. Check that out weekly. Did much better numbers this week. So shout out to the Big 12 fans.
For Utah fans in the comments predicting scores.
Almost hit it. Not really. A lot of them were much higher, 34, 35 range, something like that. Closer games, but nobody hit my exact score. If you don't know this in our fan perspectives and the Big 12 show, if you guess a score within anywhere in the conference of the Big 12 show and then of Nebraska and whoever they're playing, or Iowa State and whoever they're playing, if you hit it on the nose, we're sending you a No Rivals cap from our partners at No Rivals. So do that weekly because it's a great opportunity for you to win free shit and talk ball. It's the best worlds.
I think Parks, we got to set requirements too. You got to be subscribed to us and you got to use the code at checkout. So
you got to. I mean, it's weekly chances. So you might as well hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button so you can know when to get your score prediction and get your chance at another free week cap.
It was funny. The Iowa State scores, nobody was even relatively
No,
close on that.
no.
I was decently close. I said we'd score 45 points. We scored 52. So
There was one comment that flew in during the middle of that game that was like, "It's 45-0 right now." I was like, "Thank you, thank you." We do.
it's too
I
late.
see that.
You can't throw it in now.
Yep. Yep. Make a guess based off that, I guess. But all right, that is the Big 12 matchup this week. Now let's kind of open it up. Let's go to notable scores. We have 2 notable scoreboards this week. It kind of required it. I do want to disclose this at the start. These are made at like midnight, 1 in the morning. There's so many college football games throughout the day going on. You got to wait for. Clemson scored 59, not 52. I'm very aware, people. 59-35, Clemson won that game. But let's start with Baylor. Baylor blows it late against Colorado. Baylor missed a 45-yard field goal, 2 minutes and 19 seconds left. At the peak of their chances to win, they had a 99.3% chance to win until LeJontay Wester catches a Hail Mary pass from Shedeur Sanders as time expires. Colorado wins in overtime. Travis Hunter forces a fumble on a run up the gut on 1st and goal from the 3-yard line, forces a fumble.
Yep.
And not to mention that, but Will Shepherd dropped a Hail Mary that he
Yep.
would have scored on the play before they scored on the Hail Mary. No adjustments made. Colorado takes this one. It was unbelievable. Your thoughts on that matchup and what you saw? I know we were both watching it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad you mentioned the Will Shepherd portion because that's what makes the Hail Mary so upsetting if you're a Baylor fan is you almost gave it up the first time and you got a gift when the ball went right off Shepherd's chest and gave you 2 seconds left. And you probably would have thought to yourself, maybe I just don't want some single coverage down there with 3 seconds left when I know that they need a touchdown. They don't need a field goal. So maybe, just maybe, we might need 6 or 7 guys sitting back there and let's just try to rush 3 or 4 because 3 or 4 was good enough to get after Shedeur Sanders all night long. I did not think Baylor's pass rushers were very good, but man, did they look quick. And Jordan Seaton was in a blender because the guy had like 3 or 4 false starts. And I think it was 10. He probably looked half of Seaton's size, but he was just getting by him every time. Shedeur, to his credit, really scrambled well. I would love to know what his rushing yards was because I thought he used his legs really well. But yeah, going back to the Hail Mary, it's like, you're going to get pressure with 3 or 4. What the hell are you doing? Put everybody else back there. And I understand there's some people who are like, well, we need to account for Travis Hunter. We need to have maybe 1 or 2 guys on him. That's fine. But him and Wester, and I think maybe the receiver were like all bunched together on the left side of the corner of the end zone. So I know the cornerback slipped, but it just can't happen. It cannot happen.
Shedeur was 19 carries for 26 yards. That's because of the sacks.
Sacks, yeah.
Yeah, the sacks, he did get rushed a lot. I will say one thing about Shedeur is he extends plays pretty well, but a lot of the sacks he gets into, man, he holds onto the ball.
Yep.
He does. He tries to extend the play a lot sometimes where he could throw it away and save himself 2 or 3 hits at minimum in majority of games. But yeah, Seaton got beat off the edge quite a few times, which is expected. You get into conference play, a freshman's going to have his step backs, but he was still decent. I mean, they put up 38 points. They throw the ball 45 times.
Mhm.
They couldn't really get it going on the ground, which they never have been able to. But man, Baylor, you cannot let that happen. I know Travis Hunter had said after the game they had 3 guys on him during the Hail Mary, so he went to the single side of that set and left one-on-one with everybody else. You just saw Will Shepherd in one-on-one almost win a matchup. I don't know why. 2 guys is enough for Hunter. Put an extra safety over the top to that other side. It was pissing rain. You throw and convert a Hail Mary. It's just insane loss for Baylor. And I texted you last night, and I agree. There's not really a reason to, but there was a question out there that it's worth having a conversation about if Dave Aranda was going to have a job this morning. I mean, you cannot do that against a team like Colorado in a spot you were in, especially when your name's already in the hot seat.
Yeah, it just set his job security down probably 20%. Like if he was at 40% job security right now, he's probably at 20%. I don't know what their schedule's like going forward. I'd have to double check and go back. But this seems like one you just absolutely had to have because there was a thought in my head midway through that game. And I was like, I don't see a world where Colorado wins more than 1 Big 12 game. I think they maybe get Arizona State at home. That one seems maybe possible, but if they can't get this one, are they going to win 4 games this year? And now I still kind of think that, like, my opinion about Colorado really doesn't change at this point. But to the Dave Aranda side, not good. Not good. This is going to be something that's going to leave you short of a bowl game to where you could have kept your job.
100%. Especially you go on the road and you score 31 points in a night game, and Monterey Baldwin makes catches that are literally top 10 of the weekend. He made 2 or 3 of them. He was a monster. You cannot let down like that on defense that late in the game. I mean, you go up, 24-34 with 2 minutes left. The game's over. And granted, sometimes you don't make that field goal, but make it stop. I mean,
right. That's I think the most frustrating part, probably if you're a Baylor fan, is Parks, who's calling plays on defense.
Yeah,
it's Dave Aranda this year, and for your head coach,
just talked about all preseason
to have a blunder,
his specialty.
That's reason number 400 why you probably won't have a job in November, Dave. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect way to put it. But unbelievable loss for Baylor. Good win for Colorado. I mean, I saw a few takes out there of now they're going to start rolling. It's just like, I don't know if you've seen their schedule, and I really didn't really change my opinion of Colorado in this spot. I will say another thing with Colorado this week is on defense, man, they struggle with running quarterbacks. Like you can sit there and know draws are coming, but if you got a running quarterback, which there are a decent chunk of in this league that have the ability to run, you can tear up that defense. I mean, they didn't cover well on one-on-one coverage either. Like we said, Baldwin went off. So they still have their holes on defense and gave up 31 points at home. But, God, that's a bad loss for Baylor. All right, moving down the line, let's go Clemson, NC State. This was an ass whooping. The score doesn't really reflect it. 59-35. I know it says 52. Don't come at me. Jake, what was your thoughts on this game? Obviously, they just got off to a red-hot start, never let up. Cade Klubnik was splendid again, 16 for 24, 204 yards and 3 scores. And he had a 55-yard touchdown run towards the beginning of the game. Your thoughts on Klubnik and the Tigers in this ass whooping?
Yeah, one of my better bets of the weekend. This one felt good to have. It kind of still goes back to what I said after, what was it, week 2 or 3. There's no need to panic. Is this team Georgia level? Probably not, but this is still a team that could very much be a top of the conference. Now, Miami, on the other hand, we could get into them later, looks really, really good. But Clemson looks awesome too. And you know what helps? Obviously, Cade Klubnik using his legs, yes, but I thought Phil Maffa ran the ball really well. I know he got banged up in the game at one point. But try 7 carries for 107 yards. I mean, that helps. That's going to be the key to this offense, is what Maffa can do if he's healthy. The receivers were fine. They didn't throw the ball, but they didn't necessarily have to. And maybe that's just Clemson's new identity. Yeah, we always associate like Clemson's best teams with really good receiver play, but maybe it's time for a change. Maybe Maffa is going to be your guy. There's a couple of other guys. I mean, Klubnik had 79 yards rushing. I'm looking here. The Jay Haynes kid ran okay. Like, I don't know. I thought the defense is still going to be really good. I was a little nervous. I just, with like CJ Bailey being the true freshman, NC State, they're talking pregame. He doesn't fear anybody. Like, okay, that's common. We hear that crap all the time about new guys playing, but I was like, we don't really have a look. Clemson doesn't have a look on this true freshman. Maybe he's going to be a surprise and they can't keep up with him. Absolutely not. They spanked him from the first quarter. They spanked NC State. And that was one of the reasons why I liked Clemson so much, is because how much hell Dave Doran has been giving Dabo the last 3 or 4 years with a couple of losses. I was like, I think this NC State team is wounded, and Clemson's going to run it up on them if they can. And they surely did. So that was good to see.
Yeah, the teams from North Carolina yesterday did not do well on the defensive side of the ball. Let's throw that out there. Because North Carolina got beat 70-50 by James Madison, and then this ass whooping happened. I mean, really, I think at one point this game was 52-7, 52-14, and then a bunch of twos got on the field. NC State got their points to make it look closer than it was, but really from the jump, Dabo's team controlled this one. And it's a good note. I mean, it's an open ACC. I really do think Miami still looks like the lead runner in that race, especially with what they did to USF yesterday, which we should mention at the end, because Cam Ward is a sick man. He is just playing out of his mind. But all right, let's go down the line. I just want to keep moving because we got another notable scoreboard to share over. But let's talk Tennessee, Oklahoma. This one, the scoreboard, I feel like showed closer more than it was, because Hawkins comes in at the end. He looks more I mean, I don't want to say more better. That's not how you say it, but he looks better than Jackson Arnold did at the beginning of the game. I mean, Tennessee's defensive line gave Jackson Arnold hell, just like you said they were going to in our preview. But Tennessee takes this one 25-15. Your thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, I mean, Oklahoma just doesn't have an identity on offense right
Nope.
now. They had just so many breaks that Tennessee normally will not give their rest of the opponents on their schedule a chance this year, in being like a couple of strip sack fumbles that they got. And then Oklahoma immediately turns it over after they get the turnovers.
Can't
That
happen.
just can't, that cannot happen. I think Tennessee, with what I saw in that defense, granted, again, I think Oklahoma's got offensive issues, but Tennessee showed me that this team could legitimately win a national championship, because
Mm-hmm.
they got a C, probably C plus offensive game. Like, it was okay, but it wasn't great. Could have actually lost them the game, but that defense was just tough as nails. And that defensive line was really good, like we kept talking about all week. And Jackson just looked uncomfortable, as he probably should be, being a, redshirt freshman or whatever he is in his fourth or fifth career start. Like, that's probably to be expected. But it's not that he struggled, it's that just the turnovers after the turnovers were so detrimental. Like, that kind of stuff cannot happen. You got to
At home.
capitalize in some sort of fashion. But how about like Dylan Sampson in the run game for Tennessee? Thought it
Yeah.
was really, really good. They didn't need Nico as much. They can run the football. Like, they can
Yeah.
do so many different things. Like I said, their defense is really good. And then Tennessee can run their offense in a couple of different ways. That's what it showed me. And that's why I think this team is a national championship contender. I really do.
I think the game plan going into the game was really good for Tennessee to focus on the run, because you all obviously have a quarterback that can do that. But that really set up their big play, like the big play touchdown that Nico threw. There was no safety at the top. They started loading
Yep.
the box because you ran the ball 15 straight plays or whatever it was. So Heupel had a really good game plan going in. Nico was still fine. Like, they only threw the ball, I think it was low 20s. They threw the ball.
Yep.
Still has over 100 yards, and that touchdown pass. It's also beneficial for Nico to get into a game like that, a top 25 matchup in a somewhat tough environment with all the eyes on you, college game day and whatnot, and still look good. Like, it would have made you more worried if he gets in that game and, he's kind of shaky at the start because he hasn't been in that spot before. Now he still looked fine. So it's enough to build off of. And that was the first question I asked on our X page or Twitter page or whatever you want to call it, was, is this team a national title contender? My answer is yes, too, 100% from what I saw from their defense in a road environment, just handling business up front again. So 100% in my mind, Tennessee is a contender and going to be a team within the top 10 all year long again. Nico is, can we say he's better than the Hendon Hooker era? Can we say that yet?
I mean, his
I think he has a
ceiling is,
higher upside, right?
yeah, his ceiling's much higher, but like, what was Hooker was a 5 or 6 year guy. That his senior year, they were playing much better defensively. They weren't even close to being as good as what they were now. Like, I just remember that Georgia game,
Oh, yeah.
and Georgia was scoring at will. It wasn't even really the offense's problem. It's just like the defense didn't give him a shot. So that's kind
Right.
of the difference.
I would think that's the nail on the head there, because even that Alabama game in that era, they put up 49 points or whatever, and they win on
Yep.
a field goal. So the defense is the biggest improvement, and they focused on that. There was like a little segment during the game about Heupel. We want really good defensive players. That's what we do here. We send them to the NFL. So that is their main focus, because they obviously have the offensive side of the ball down. All right, that's Tennessee, Oklahoma college game day of week 4. Let's move down. Let's talk about unfortunately, Brent Key can't get it done against the ranked team. This was a weird one. I just
Yeah, it
don't
was.
think Georgia Tech could get it going on the ground in the second half enough, but they dropped this one 31-19 on the road to number 19, Louisville. It was fine. They lost the turnover battle. They only turned it over once, but Louisville was just kind of smooth throughout the game. They didn't turn the ball over. They just kind of stayed in it. Haynes King was still good, 21 for 32, 312 yards. No touchdowns through the air, but had a touchdown rushing, and he looked good. But Georgia Tech, 4 for 15 on third down. And then they were, I think, 3 for 5 on fourth down. They kept going for it. But it's a good win for Louisville. They can keep kind of going under the radar. I don't think they set anybody off with a 31-19 win over Georgia Tech, but they're just winning games, man.
Yeah, this one definitely got slid under the table, I feel like. Just missed kicks by Georgia Tech, kind of kept them out of the game. Some weird things here and there. Neither team ran the ball well,
Mm-mm.
but Yeah, it was just kind of
Neither
one of
team had
those.
100 yards rushing, I'm pretty sure. Neither team
Yeah,
did.
yep. And then from what I saw, Louisville had 63 yards combined rushing.
Yeah.
So it was fine. I don't really take away much from either of these teams. I think Louisville, we're going to find out a ton about them next week when they go to South Bend. That'll be on national television. I think we'll have a really good idea of who they are then. But I mean, right now they're still probably in that 3 or 4 spot in the ACC, but I don't even think they're even remotely compared to Clemson or Miami right now.
That's what I was gonna say, is I kinda think with these 2 teams and where they're at, you're kinda comparing them in your head to, can they beat a Clemson? Can they beat a
Mhm.
Miami? Right now, the answer is no, from what I've seen from both of them all year long. But all right, that was just a quick mention of Georgia Tech. Unfortunately, Brent Key can't get it done, but let's move to the next
Terrible,
notable scoreboard. Go
terrible
ahead.
bad beat for the boys who all had Georgia Tech at, what was
Yeah.
it, 10.5, 11?
Yeah, I think I thought it was lower than that, but I had him outright, so I wanted him to win the fucking football game. I was sitting there cheering. I think I was the only one that had eyes on Georgia Tech because that 2:30 slate was good. The 11 a.m. slate was terrible. I think
Yep.
I was the only one significantly watching Georgia Tech and Louisville because it was a little messy. But all right, let's go to the next notable scoreboard. Let's start with USC and Michigan. USC was a 5.5-point favorite. Michigan literally runs their way to a 27-24 win, throwing the ball like less than 11 times. And they somehow edged this one out over Miller Moss and Lincoln Riley. What was your thoughts on this matchup?
I just the way they won was fine. I mean, that's how
I
Michigan
still
is.
don't think they're good.
No, that's how they're going to have to win football games. But just the last drive in particular frustrates the hell out of me because USC, I thought they do tackle better than
Just
last year.
tackle.
I'm not going to change my opinion on that. But what did you think they were going to do with 2 minutes left? And Alex Orji had what, 30 passing yards? You
Yeah.
really thought they were going to, go in shotgun, spread it out, go 5 wide? Nope. You give up a giant run from Mullings to get them down to into the red zone, and then they capped it off from there. You could not let that happen. You absolutely could not let that
Literally,
happen.
the one thing you couldn't let him do was run.
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
even run just a big run. You cannot give up a big run with 2 minutes left. Force them to get 5 yards a pop if they're really going to do that in the last 2 minutes. You got beat on some kind of blocking schemes, and I thought the hole opened well, and then Mullings made that safety kind of miss off that bounce back spin or whatever the hell he was doing. It just that that's frustrating. That's a
I just
frustrating.
don't understand the defensive scheme coming out if you're D'Anton Lynn. Like, dude, put 8 in the box, put 9 in the box,
Right.
and make Orgy beat you with his arm. Warren wasn't in the game. They weren't going to throw it there. I mean, that's what they had beat you on to get to 20 points in the first place, and then you let them score on 4th and goal with 37 seconds left. And then I really did after the first couple of plays of USC to end that game. I thought they were going to drive down and kick a field goal and go into overtime, but absolutely not. That's a huge win for Michigan, and I don't want to say it's terrible. I don't
No,
think
it's
USC
not a
lost
bad
a ton
loss.
of points in my head. Like, you
Yeah.
go on the road and lose to the defending national champion in their house in week 4. It's not like, your season's over. You can't do anything in the Big Ten now. Like, they still looked fine. Miller Moss was running for his life. I want to give credit to Michigan up front. That defensive front had Miller Moss running for his life for a majority of that game.
Right, which we knew that Michigan could present that, like, the
Mm-hmm.
defensive tackles are good enough for them, and,
Will Johnson pick 6.
the Will Johnson pick 6 was huge. I mean, I said USC can score 24 points and win this game by 10. I thought that was a possibility, but, the defensive guys made plays that they had to. The Johnson pick 6 was huge, and then, yeah, a big run, so then you're sitting at, that's 2 other scores from Michigan where they had just okay drives, another Donovan Edwards big broken play. Like, there's like 3 plays that you can take away from Michigan that won them the game, and I thought USC offensively was good enough outside of the pick 6.
Again, my take of Donovan Edwards being the first collegiate athlete to grace the cover of a video game and still get less reps than the guy that he's standing next to in his room. It's standing true because that Mullins looked unbelievably good yesterday, and he'll be the go-to back, I'm sure, for the majority of the year. But all right, moving down the line, let's briefly talk about this one. Arkansas rolls into Auburn, picks off Hank Brown about 3 times. They have to go back to Peyton Thorne, but they beat Auburn at home 24-14. Huge win for Sam Pittman's squad. Not one that you'd probably expect after what we've seen from Arkansas. Brief thoughts on this matchup.
I mean, I kind of expected it a little bit. I gave out Arkansas as a, I don't know, with pick or dog's dog or whatever we were talking about last week, just based on the fact I don't think Auburn's any good. I thought
Shockingly.
I still like what Arkansas brings offensively. I think they're going to be good enough to compete in the SEC. But yeah, Auburn's got a huge identity crisis on offense right now, in particular quarterback.
Probably one of the hardest hits we'll see throughout this college football season was a part of this game too, worth mentioning. And then the dude who laid that hit broke his leg like 2 plays later, I believe. It was yeah, the dude who laid that hit was carted off the field in an air cast 2 plays later after that hit. So I don't know, but it was just worth mentioning. That was a crazy little sequence of events there in that matchup. I just wanted to briefly mention that one because it is a notable score that Auburn loses at home. And God, it seems like stuff's just still hitting the fan over there. They go back to Peyton Thorne, just still can't move the ball. But it is what it is, I guess. I'm a War Eagle next week. All right, let's go back to the Big 12. I do want to mention this one. Kansas falls to West Virginia in comeback fashion, 32-28. Kansas led this one, I believe it was 28 to something. 28
to 17. 17, wasn't it?
Yeah, 28-17 with 5 minutes left or something like that. Here comes West Virginia after the weather delay, part 2 in Morgantown, and somehow sneaks away with the win in this one, 32-28. Did you take away more from Kansas? Did you take away more from West Virginia?
I don't really know. It's like I said it was a dumpster fire game of the week, didn't I? Like, and it kind of was another blown loss in the Big 12, and West Virginia on the other end this week needed 2 scores to come back and win. Last week they gave up 2 scores for Pitt to come back and win, so kind of returned the favor there. I don't. Jalen Daniels is just not right now, and I know that people think it's all his fault. And a lot of his turnovers are pretty inexcusable because they're just forced and he's trying to do too much. But I still feel like they're just setting him up for failure with some of the play calling stuff. But good win for West Virginia. I mean, to come back and stay alive. I know that there's a lot of Big 12 play yet to happen. And yesterday was another reason this conference is so chaotic and a lot of teams still have a shot.
Oh, yeah.
But this does feel like it's over for Kansas as far as me predicting them to make the conference title. And I just want to, hit myself in the head for thinking this team was going to be legit when I doubted them all year last year.
I mean, on paper, though, preseason, they really did look like that team. Like the amount of production they returned, the amount of seniors that they had on this roster, and that they still just can't finish games. Jalen Daniels has just not been what we thought he was pre-injury. And Jason Beam seems like literally the hero of this team that they're missing because he just keeps turning the ball over. Huge win for West Virginia in this spot, though, to be down like that for a weather delay, come back and edge one out towards the end. So West Virginia, that's good to build off of, especially since you were kind of losing a lot of your steam from the preseason as well. Maybe they can revitalize that and be a name within the conference to still compete late in the year. But it definitely does feel like the Big 12 is still the most wide open conference, and you really don't know who's going to win it. There are maybe the set 4 or 5 teams at the top, but not a lot of other conferences can say that. All right, let's go down Memphis. Our top 25 Memphis Tigers get beat by Navy, give up 56 points to the midshipmen. Unbelievable. I mean, there were plays where Navy was scoring without getting touched. Any thoughts? I know we were both had eyes on this game. Any thoughts from this matchup other than holy shit, maybe tackle somebody, Memphis?
Yeah, Memphis is going back to their old habits on defense last year. I thought maybe the defense was going to be different this year, and that was going to be the difference for them being an actual playoff contender and being that best G5 team. Was I thought the defense was going to make improvements, and I thought they were getting there. Nope. It turns out Florida State still has the worst offense in America. And it turns out Memphis still can't play defense. Cause like you said, Parks, it just like it was on. I'm in a sports bar with a million TVs on, and I'm watching Utah. I think it was Notre Dame, maybe Michigan, USC. And every time I look on another side TV, there goes Navy.
There's Navy running down the field, nobody next to him. That's literally what it was.
Going another 70-yard touchdown run or whatever the hell it was. And, the offense did its part, 44 points. The offense is still good. Of course, that's always going to be their big thing. But giving up. I mean, Navy's offense was terrible last year. Like, I know they were trying to change some things up with, I think it's Newberry, their coach, and they were trying to change the offense. Now they went back to their bread and butter last night.
The quarterback
And
run.
yep,
The
the
quarterback run
quarterback ran for.
killed Memphis.
I think Parks. We've definitely got a helmet sticker for if somebody picks him. Blake Horvath. Is it Horvath? Yeah, Blake Horvath. 211 rush yards, 4 touchdowns, 192 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. So
Yeah, that'll do.
6 touchdowns from the kid was, yeah, kudos for him. He deserves his shout out.
All right, there's your first helmet sticker. Those will be posted later today. But huge win for Navy, and it really kind of opens up the picture in the American Athletic Conference. We are definitely going to have some massive movement within our top 25 this week. A lot of teams, especially towards the back half of it, will probably drop out, including not on this notable scoreboard. So we can just go back to our standard look here. But Kansas State got absolutely destroyed by BYU last night in Provo. Let's get your opening Big 12 thoughts. They didn't make the notable scoreboard because it got over at 1 a.m. Shout out Utah. But what were your thoughts on that matchup? Obviously, the punt return started it, but it just felt like a steamroll. Like Kansas State got out in front, then all of a sudden, here comes BYU, and there was no stopping them once they started.
There's just so many. You play a night game at BYU at 9:30 at night. There's just things that you can't let happen. You can't have a fumble returned for whatever it was, 70, 80 yards for a touchdown. You can't give up that punt return. Now, I know it was fluky. The kid made the mistake first, still picks up the ball, turns it the other direction. I understand coverage wise, you can't really even prepare for that, but still can't let that happen. To open up, I think it was the second half. Johnson throws another pick. He threw one
bad one
at the end of the first half too, to make it 17-6. That's right. So the turnovers came at just terrible times, and Kansas State couldn't dig themselves out of it. Giddens only runs for 50, or he's still got 93 yards. Sorry, looking at the score here. So kind of got his own. But there's a missing piece with Avery Johnson throwing the football right now that I think this team really misses. You go on Twitter and they're like, boy, they were dumb for making Will Howard go. Here's what I'll say to that. If the ceiling for Kansas State wanted to be 7-8 wins, you keep Will Howard around. Fine. But if you wanted a shot at being one of the best teams in college football and the possibility of being a 10-win football team, you give a shot on Avery Johnson. Now, is this quarterback good enough to get you to 10 wins? At this point in his young career, I don't think so. But what he has the capability of being is what could take Kansas State to that next level. And if you're a Kansas State fan, I think you just take the shot on that, because you've seen this football team win 7-8 games for 20 plus years in a row. Why don't you take a shot on maybe getting to that next step, finally having a shot at the college football playoff, and just do it? Like, kid's going to take his lumps and bruises, and he's still, like, again, we are so early into this. It's one conference game. They could still find themselves in Dallas with a shot to go to the playoff in December if he's much better.
Yeah, Avery Johnson, I saw a lot of questions lingering around his arm yesterday, especially with the picks that he made. It would seem like, he started to take off and run, and then he'd throw it in the coverage, and all of a sudden there's another interception. But BYU just made those late night BYU plays to blow one open that you kind of saw in that 2020 BYU run there.
Yeah.
And it's a positive side for BYU too. I mean, they're started 4-0 from a team that you had last year that was just kind of getting beat to sleep by teams. It's a huge step forward. But Kansas State, I don't think you hit the alarms, especially with the way this game went. You just got to, you clean up special teams and the turnovers, and all of a sudden that game is 20 points closer at the least. So I wouldn't hit the alarms there, but obviously a massive win. It's going to cause a lot of ruckus within the top 25 of everybody's listing, but worth mentioning for sure. All right, open floor now to close things out. I do want to start off by mentioning Miami's winning the ACC. I'm just telling you that right now. Miami can score as many points as they want, but Miami's winning that conference.
They look really good. I know USF doesn't have the best defense in college football. They're beyond that, but Miami kind of got whatever they wanted in the second half, and defensively they look just really, really good. Byron Brown goes out in a crucial point in which who had 16.5 for the Bulls, needed a cover.
Yeah, that's
And
fine.
the pressure Miami put on that young kid who stepped in was I feel bad for that kid. They were
In
sending
danger.
7. They were
Yeah.
like, buddy, we know you're just going to close your eyes and throw this up. So good luck on that. So Miami physically looks like a team to beat, and they look really good. You know, got to give an Iowa shout out. You know, we haven't seen some Iowa content in a little bit, so I want to give an
Yeah.
Iowa shout out
That's
to
a shout out, JP. Figured out your schedule. You need the fan perspective.
Caleb Johnson, 3 touchdown runs. He's performing like a top 5 running back in college football right now. I'll say it.
Interesting comments after the game from Caleb Johnson. I don't know if you got a chance to listen to that. Did you hear that?
No, what do you
The
say?
quote was, "I put my team on my back and I won." Usually you dish
That's what he did.
say, I know, but usually you say, "Hey, shout out to the O-line." Like,
no, I love that because he's like, this offense sucks. And I don't know if you were watching that game.
McNamara's bad.
They were dead in the water, probably in the middle of that second quarter. And yeah, he did put his team on his back because that's the thing with Iowa. You know, McNamara's not going to beat you. So the focus is still going to be the run game. And Johnson's just a beast, man. Like he busted out.
He can move at that size. The way he can move is insanely good.
We didn't see that with Iowa. Missed that last year. Like this would have been a 14-17 win or lose in this game, but they got to they're scoring at a higher rate this year because of what Caleb Johnson can do. It has nothing to do with the passing game, and I got to give flowers to the kid because he's good. He's really, really good.
He is very good. He's also one of the names that we're going to mention in the Heisman race. I'm sure we'll talk about here very shortly because it's kind of time to be like, all right, they're 5 weeks in and this kid's still balling. Cam Ward's also going back to Miami quickly doing that. I do want to mention this is the 3rd game I've seen Miami play. Granted, they've been up at 25 points when he does it, but he legitimately told South Florida again what play they were running and where they were running the ball, and teams cannot stop it. Like the confidence that Miami team is playing with is what's making me go, I don't see anybody coming in to Miami and like you open up the season, the swamp, dirt wipe them, and then you've just been destroying teams on your path down the road. I just do not see that Miami team losing anytime soon, especially with the confidence Cam Ward's playing. He's running the ball and he's throwing the hell out of the ball too.
Yep.
Shocking. And making it look like he's raising his draft stock, in my opinion. I know that was an option for him, and that's what he came back for. Like he declared for the draft, then he committed to Miami, then maybe he was going back to the draft. Now he's definitely at Miami and he's making the most of it. I think he's only increasing his stock. Thoughts on Cam Ward?
Yeah, no, I thought he was my dark horse Heisman contender for a reason, and then I'm glad he's playing at the level that he is because I think we need better star quarterback power in college football this year. I wanted to switch it over to, speaking of star quarterback power, let's go to the opposite side. Me and a friend of mine in Sioux Falls yesterday shout Max, we wanted to watch the Notre Dame game, find a spot to watch that. And God, we kind of tortured our eyes for about 40 minutes there. Riley Leonard is just missing throws that maybe 6th graders could make, to be quite honest with you. Like Denbrock is trying to roll him out of the pocket and just to get him to throw a 5-yard out to a tight end, and he can't make that completion. He got better as the game went on. He had a nice long throw to Bo Collins, but oh my God, it's in the crowd was just, they're on him, man. They were on him with the boos. And I'm really excited for the Louisville Notre Dame game next week because it's kind of nut up time for this Notre Dame offense to keep up because as good as the defense has been for Notre Dame this year, Louisville is going to be it's going to be their best test offensively, I think, so far this year.
100%. You're bringing in a guy up front for Louisville and Ashton Gillott that can literally change the game, especially, I mean, Riley Leonard has the legs, so he can make those plays, but he has not been consistent throwing the ball. And that Notre Dame offense has just looked almost as inconsistent identity-wise as Oklahoma has, but they just have better athletes than I think Oklahoma does on the outside more consistently. But I agree. I think Notre Dame has a lot of question marks around it. I know the fans aren't incredibly happy with the team in general and Marcus Freeman, but they get it done. That is a decent MAC team. I mean, I know Miami of Ohio's 0-3 now, and you'd feel
Well,
that way, but they played a gauntlet of a
yeah,
schedule.
they played Northwestern. Ugh.
Yeah, Northwestern looks really bad. They put up 5 points yesterday. 5
Yeah,
total points.
Cincinnati's good, I think, and then yeah, obviously Notre Dame's still a good football team. I wanted to say at first I thought about it, and I'm obviously we're G5 supporters on this podcast.
Of
I
course.
did not think it was a great day for the G5 yesterday. Now,
North Texas looked good.
Texas looked good. Boise State did what it had to against Portland
Yes.
State, so that was
Ashton
good.
GT, your actual Heisman front runner, still is a monster.
He got 0 touchdowns yesterday. We gotta get
They took him out. It was like 35-7, 10 minutes into the game. His backup had 3 touchdown runs.
I
Who
know.
also looked like a beast.
We need to give him touchdowns so the national media can pay
Fair enough.
attention.
I like that.
But Memphis, Liberty still is Liberty's a very mediocre football team. They are hard to watch.
And that means medium people, like not
That
the
means
word.
that means medium, and they're still probably going to go undefeated because their toughest test was supposed to be at App State, and my God, they look terrible too. Shout out South Alabama on that Thursday night, by the way. So you had Memphis, Liberty looks very average, and then Northern Illinois. You got the bye week to celebrate the Notre Dame game, and you still lose at home to Buffalo. Cannot happen.
No, it cannot happen. You're making T-shirts during your bye week for your big win against Notre Dame. Your head coach went on 65 podcasts, and then you open up home play with a loss to Buffalo. Absolutely cannot happen.
So, from my takeaway for the G5 right now is, if you're a G5 fan, Boise State has to run the table.
You have to, because if you put Liberty in, they're going to get smacked. Like it's not going to be competitive, and all of a sudden the G5 narrative is out the window when it comes to the expansion, getting another slot. Maybe you're just losing ground. 100% Boise State needs to come out of that, or North Texas.
And it's too bad too, because G5 has been good. I mean, James Madison put up 70 points on North Carolina yesterday.
Fair.
Like the G5 has been good so far, and now we're getting into conference play, which means your top teams need to beat on the middle pack of your team, of the teams in those respective conferences. So the American looks like it's going to beat up on each other. Like, I don't know what's going to happen with that conference. Anything can go between Tulane, Memphis, and USF. Sorry, I drew a blank there.
And North Texas.
And North Texas, maybe.
They're in that picture.
Speaking of which, because we do talk all sorts of football on here, Wyoming might be the worst team in college football. Might be the worst team in college football.
It's just North Texas is that good. No, you're right, though. And Wyoming is terrible, man. They cannot do anything on offense. I mean, they get 3 points. It's an Iowa level inconsistent offense over there. They are looking for I saw a Wyoming fan. I found one deep in the depths of the unknown on Twitter calling for heads. He was just something's got to change.
The Savell guy, the new head coach for them, Jay Savell, and I think I'm saying that right. He said, like, I've got this team in a blender. Like, this is all on me. We obviously had a good thing going with Craig Bowl, and I've messed it all up. He was an in-house hire, and he's like, I don't know what's happened. They've had a lot of injuries, but yeah, they're the worst
doing what they're doing. They're getting blasted.
I'm crowning them worst team in college football. I think on a neutral field. Okay, I'm sorry. They're second. UMass is terrible. I think UMass lost and FIU also lost to Monmouth yesterday. See, people, this is what we do. Come to this show. We talk all sorts of ball. But Wyoming, I'm not sure would be favored against ULM on a neutral field.
No, I thought ULM competed a little bit yesterday. I mean, that's going to be a trivia. Let me make note of this. This is a trivia question. 15 years from now, you're going to be watching the new version of Stump the Schwab, Jeopardy, and they're going to be like, this Texas Heisman quarterback winner, Arch Manning, threw his first interception against this Sun Belt Conference team in 2024. And the answer is going to be the ULM Warhawks. So mark that down right now if you're a college football fan. I'm just telling you. They competed a little bit. I mean, you got away from them, but shout out
Bowling Green also.
Oh, that's the MAC winner. I almost tweeted that last night when I posted the final score graphic, but I never include my personal opinions on there because it's the show page. But I wanted to say Bowling Green's winning the MAC, just so you know.
I hope so. I think that's my favorite as of right now. But the MAC loves to MAC, and they
that's
also.
Fair. I mean, Bowling Green legitimately is a good football team.
It's what happens when you play college football games on Tuesday and Wednesday nights. Like, weird shit, it's gonna happen.
Full moon all the time in the MAC, 100%. But Bowling Green competed 26-20. They lose on the road at Texas A&M. But I mean, still, you lose within. I mean, it's a 22-point spread. You lose at Penn State in a close one. I mean, this team is competing against like some of the better teams within the SEC and the Big Ten, who are the big dog.
I agree. Can we give shouts to Billy Napier?
Yeah, winning the toilet bowl. That was Super Bowl level competition to start that game. I texted that in a different chat. I was like, hey, this Florida Mississippi State game is like an ideal bowl game look right now until Florida pulled away. Like that was just a close game, hard fought.
You gotta win those games if you're on the brink of a hot seat and you scored 45 points and you did what you had to do. So you long live another week, Billy.
You know that meme where the like dude who's dressed like an old gangster or pimp walks in the store and that song's playing? That's you're walking around campus. That's Billy Napier now. 1-0 this week. Season starts week 4. But yeah, they get a win against a very bad Mississippi State team. So shout out Billy Napier. Let's leave the show with a shout out to Billy Napier. You're never going to find another college football show doing that in week 4, especially recapping it, shouting out Billy Napier of all people in the world. But let's do that. Shout out to No Rivals, our great partners. Use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping on any of the premium hat and unique designs you find. Check those out today. ShopNoRivals.com. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button on this video if you're here and you made it this far. Check out our fan perspective next week. Hopefully we have an Iowa one in the mix. Check out the somewhere in the middle, our Big 12 show that covers all Big 12 football recap and preview wise, and any of the YouTube or hype video content we put out. Give it a look. Those are my favorites. We already got a couple of clips to save for the week 4 recap, but we appreciate you being here. Jake, take us away.
Yeah. Happy Sunday to all those who celebrate, and let's play it.